Hi everybody, it's Lord Magicus, and as you can see, we're doing something a little bit different today. So, normally I would be streaming a league right now, and I promise you we will get to that, but today I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. Over the last few days, I saw some of the discussion in the Merfolk Discord, people talking about how they're going to go out and buy some new cards for their deck, especially with Theros coming out, and some people getting into Legacy and talking about how the cost of it was really a hindrance to them, being able to play. Somebody mentioned, well, yeah, they had a problem with getting into Legacy until I helped them find some deals on some cards. And you know what? I don't know if everybody's necessarily knows how you can get like the cheapest deals on Magic cards. A lot of players have very limited budgets. Nobody can just afford to throw, tons and tons of money at Magic. So if you some people really need to make every single dollar count if they want to be able to play their deck. So I thought tonight, why don't we go through the process and I will show everybody how you can go and find cards at, the bottom of the barrel deals. Or yes, the bottom prices. We're going to go and we're going to make those dollars count. This is what I do when I want to go and find stuff, and I highly recommend that you do it too. This is, maybe not everybody's familiar with all of these different places or these processes, but it's stuff that you should. I think every Magic player should know this. It's definitely going to help you save money and then be able to play even more Magic. So, the first thing that I would say is you have the option of buy stuff from your local game store, and there it may not always be the cheapest option, but one of the reasons you might want to do this is because many local game stores you can buy things with credit, and that means if you are, say, winning F&Ms, like if you go to do your Friday night draft and you win, you might get like $5 in credit for each round that you win. Like that's what my store does. So if I'm going to go and spend $15 to do a draft anyway, I can win $15 in credit. So, alright, I can take the credit that I win and put it towards buying cards. Now, maybe that's not going to buy like an entire, Ugin the Spirit Dragon or something, but that definitely reduces the cost of it by a fair bit if I can put the credit towards it. And a lot of stores have discounts for loyalty, so at my store, if you spend a certain amount of money over time, then they take like a certain percentage off. So um, that can add up after a while. If you buy all of your stuff from a store that has like good rewards and you can get lots of credit for it, then you know what, you can save yourself a fair bit of money that way. And another common reason you might want to look at the whether your gaming store has it first is you can trade in cards towards getting it. So that F&M draft that we just talked about, you went 3-0 at? Well, maybe you opened up like a Royal Scions, and that card could just be taking off more money off that Ugin that you need for your deck. And, a lot of cards are just not stuff that you're ever going to play or you don't really care about it. Maybe it's just like standard stuff that and you don't really play standard. So trading in cards is definitely a huge way, especially if it's a lot of draft stuff, just things that you open randomly from doing drafts or whatnot. You can definitely subsidize the cost of getting your Eternal format staples, or I guess like any format. I guess Standard's not an Eternal format. I don't think. I don't know. The terminology is weird, but you know what I mean. So yeah, you can being able to like win credit and also trade in stuff will mean sometimes the best bet is, well, I have $60 of credit at my LGS and I want something. Well, if they have it, I don't have to spend real money to get it. So that might be the first thing that I go to check. However, not every store prices things the same way. So like, for instance, there are two different stores that are within 20 minutes of my house. One of them uses Tcg Player's pricing. The other one uses Star City to price it. So just because, I have credit at one store, the prices may be different on the things that I want. So sometimes it pays to know what pricing scheme the different stores in your area use, because that way you can figure out which one is going to be the best deal, and then figure out, okay, well, do I have credit or cards I want to trade in to help get this? And then you can, decide where it's going to be cheapest to do that. So, and I also wanted to lead off with, talking about getting stuff from your gaming stores, because remember, they also, need to keep the lights on, and gaming stores are important, and if you can buy stuff from there and it makes sense to do that, you should. Sometimes I might buy stuff from there even if it's like $1 or two more than, where I might get it elsewhere, just because I want to make sure that the lights stay on, because I like going and playing there. But if you are in desperate need, it might make sense to just buy things there, because it may just be cheaper than any other option you have. One other thing to consider, like, if you get things locally from your gaming stores, you don't have to pay shipping costs, and that can add up after a while. So if you're gonna order like 100 different cards and you order it from like 100 different vendors, then yeah, you're gonna kill yourself in shipping. So if you can go to your gaming store and order, or you get like 20 or 30 of the cards, even if they don't have everything, that's a lot of shipping that you just saved yourself. So yeah, just keep that in mind sometimes, especially if you want to. What was I gonna say? Yeah, if you want to order like entire like commander decks or something, like you can get, they can just a lot of places will do pre-orders for that kind of stuff. So you don't have to go and like have Star City ship you a commander deck. You can get one from your gaming store. And you can always check out what the deck lists look like. Intro pack decks sometimes have certain rares in them. I don't know if they still. I don't know exactly which pre-made decks that they are, what they call them, but they used to have like event decks too, and sometimes they'd be a little bit more expensive, but they had more competitive stuff in them. But you know what? Sometimes Wizards of the Coast just releases like pre-built products, like decks and stuff, and maybe like they release something that has what was I going to say? Like a Sacred Foundry in it. It's like, you need one for your deck? Well, it has like a Sacred Foundry and a Lightning Helix in it and a Boros Charm. Well, if you're building Burn, like maybe that makes sense for you to go and buy that. So, always kind of keep an eye on like what the pre-built decks look like from Wizards. They always release the deck lists on there, and if you know that it's going to have something that you want, you can always ask your gaming store, I want to definitely buy one of these. Can you set one aside when it comes in? And most places will do that. So, buying that kind of stuff, like, again, you can have credit towards it too, which helps. You can save yourself some money by that. Like sometimes, yeah, if some of the pre-built product just has like really good stuff. One of the ones I remember that being especially the case was there was a vehicles deck when Kaladesh was in Standard, and I think the vehicles deck had like Heart of Kirin and maybe like Walking Ballista or something like that in it. They're one of the decks that they released at the time. Like, if you were trying to build like a standard deck, it had like half of the cards that you needed in it already, and it only cost like $30. So knowing what kinds of products you can buy to get some of those staples definitely is a way you can save money and stuff too. So, and that's going to be more relevant with standard, but even sometimes, with like the guild kits, I think they put like, stuff like Lightning Helix. It's not in standard, but I think that was in the Boros one, so it's worth knowing that. So even if it's like, what, $15, $20, something like that, maybe the cost or maybe the value of everything else that is in there is stuff that you actually need, and it might make sense for you to just buy it. It depends what you're looking for. It's not always going to, but you just keep in mind, pay attention to the list, and sometimes it will. So that's all I'm just gonna say with that. Yeah. So yeah, support your stores especially if it makes sense for you to do so. Uh, so I absolutely wanted to lead with that, but you know what? Let's face reality though. Sometimes you're not going to be able to do that. So because it might be that your store is charging Star City prices on stuff, and that just happens to be the most expensive for that card. Whereas like if you if you don't have any stores near you that like use other pricing, then maybe, you know what, you might have to go and look other places to see if you can find it differently. Like a lot of cards, especially standard cards, right when they come out, they're ridiculously expensive on Star City. Star City overcharges for stuff like Mythics and Planeswalkers by a lot. So it's just they can afford to do it because they're kind of the standard. So a lot of places base their they base their entire pricing structure on them, and it just means that it ends up like Planeswalkers for standard usually are not cheap because of that. But that doesn't mean that you can't get them cheaper than what Star City asks for. It just means that sometimes, it's not going to make sense for you to buy, like, what was I going to, Gideon Ally of Zendikar, for instance. That was like, what, $40, $50 in Star City. But you could reasonably have bought them a little bit cheaper than that if you went elsewhere, I think. So, yeah, just stuff like that when the cards that are just defining a format. Like, Oko at first wasn't particularly expensive, but at one point, like, it just got absolutely ridiculous. And there's a lot of times where if you, again, look on places like TCG or eBay, you might find them significantly cheaper. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at our first alternate avenue. Here we go. So first place, Star City Games. That's right. I know I just said like sometimes they're the most expensive, but you know what? Sometimes Star City is not actually the most expensive, and this is especially true if you are willing to get played cards, and it also matters a lot for foil cards. I know I personally have bought a lot of stuff from Star City just because they have competitive prices on some stuff. Not everything is ridiculously expensive. Like I said, generally like Mythics and Planeswalkers tend to be a little bit higher, but a lot of other stuff sometimes they have price less than other places. Like for instance, I searched here for Disallow. So if I'm looking for a foil Disallow, Star City has a played one for $6. That's worth noting. They have it in stock if I want to buy it right now at $6. So yeah, and look at their near mint one is $9. So you are saving 33% of the cost if you are willing to buy one that's played. And I will tell you a secret about Star City. They tend to undergrade their cards by a lot. They're very, very picky about condition. So if there's even the minorest amount of play on a foil card, then they will call it played instead of near mint. So if you're somebody who can tolerate, a little bit of play in your cards, whether it be foil or not foil, you can get cards in pretty decent condition at a significant discount. So you can see here they have a English Disallow $6. Well, you can save yourself $1 a piece if you get them played. And honestly, their played stuff is not really that bad of condition. It's absolutely fine. I do this a lot sometimes, and I've never really had a problem. So if you're picky about condition, you may want to get near mint because their minty stuff is going to be about as minty as you can find out there. But if you're okay with a little bit of play in your cards, then you can actually get some pretty good deals, especially when it comes to foils. I remember I had bought Culligan's Commands for almost what, 40% off of what the normal cost of it was, just because it was a played card. And I think I still have them sitting here somewhere, but it significantly matters. So you can see here, all right. So this Disallow, like I said, we found it $6 for this foil. So let's look and see what TCG has to say about it. So here's TCG Player. TCG Player, we're looking at foils here. There's one of them here at just under $6, and it plus 79 cents shipping. So there's one that's from a seller that is just about priced along with this. Remember, this does not include shipping cost. So generally, if you're going to buy stuff from Star City, you may want to try to get multiple things at the same time. If you're looking to build a deck, just see if they have a competitive price on on different cards to get. Like, the more stuff you get together, you want to try to minimize the amount of shipping that you have to pay for stuff. So it might be like, maybe there would be like 3 different sellers that have cards at this cost, but you know what? You don't want to buy like one, and one. It's much better sometimes to be able to buy stuff like if they have like 3 of them, for instance. So yeah, and I don't see, there might not be a good example here, but like, see, the shipping cost is, got like $1 for this place, but maybe shipping is like free in this one. Well, if this place has like four of them and you need to buy 4, buying 4 of them from here might be cheaper than buying like 4 of them, even if they're like $7 a piece or something. Or if or like, or vice versa, I meant. So like, yeah, let's pretend this is like $7.79. I don't know. Like there's a point, maybe like 7.25. I'd have to look at exactly like where it is, but what I mean is sometimes if take the fact that the shipping cost is for all of the things that you're buying, because sometimes it might make sense. Like, okay, even if there's a place that you can buy it cheaper that has like shipping included, if you're going to buy like 4 copies of a card, sometimes it's cheaper to get it from a place, because the shipping only gets added once, and yeah, it makes sense to buy stuff a place at a time. The more stuff you get together, the cheaper it is in general. So usually if you want something, it makes sense to try to get it in as few packages as possible. And Tcg Player does have a cart optimizer function, and it sort of works, not always. Like, I've noticed that sometimes it comes within a few dollars of being correct, but not always perfect. So you might have to manually kind of figure out some of this stuff, but if you minimize the amount of places that things are shipping from, then yeah, you'll save yourself money that way. But in this case, so it looks like most of these disallows are actually like $7.52 a piece. But if we remember, well, we were willing to have like a played one here. It was only $6. So in in general, like if I need some foil disallows, then Star City has a pretty good price on it, but unfortunately they only have 1 in stock for this particular card. So if I need multiples, then it's going to be tough, because maybe I just buy 1 from here and 1 from there, but like that's still going to be rough. So we might have to, maybe we want to look on eBay and see what the prices look like there. So yeah, always, this is nice. Always, like, you usually want to search by price plus shipping. If you want to look by just price, then sometimes, yeah, you can find stuff like this. See, this one's like a damage foil, but it's $4 to ship it. So, and the only reason you might want to search it by item price is because sometimes if like this, if this one's lightly played, if there's like 4 copies of this and it has like plus $2 shipping, sometimes, like I said, it might be cheaper to just buy 4 from here, just because it works out to be a better price for all 4 when you buy all 4 at the same time. So, but if you're just buying like singleton cards, sometimes then sort it by price plus shipping. It'll make it easier to just go down the list that way. Yep. So then let's also look at eBay. So here, I searched on eBay for foil disallows. Also here on eBay, you want to make sure you want to go to buy it now. Buy it now is going to be your least amount of headache. You can do auctions for, like, look up auctions and certain stuff, and like maybe if you want to place at a Force of Wills, it might actually be worth checking to see if there's an auction for it. And we'll look in a second and see what things look like for that. But in general, most of the stuff you want to do buy it now, and you should change this to price plus shipping lowest first. That's going to be best way to make sure that you're finding the cheapest prices on these things. And it looks like on eBay there's not very many like cheap cards here. Like the cheapest one that they have here is like an LP one for like $9. So yeah, so that means Star City looks like it might actually be like pretty competitive for that, especially if there's other stuff that you want to get from them. They have a pretty large inventory of cards, so It might, in this particular instance, despite the fact that they're generally one of the more expensive ones, in this particular case, that might actually be the cheapest option depending on what all you're getting. So, and like Foil Disallow is one of the cards that I needed for my Mono Blue Devotion and Pioneer. So, but yeah, you can see this. The one thing that you should also do though is, even if it doesn't look like this, like you can buy one card that's particularly cheap, sometimes scroll down because there might be play sets of cards being sold. It doesn't look like there are here, but in some, yeah, like I said, some instances there might be a listing that just says like disallow X4, maybe disallow X3, or even like two of them together. So, and it also might be possible that maybe this one has like $8.99. There's like one copy of this, but maybe this guy has like four of them. So if you need a set of them, instead of getting like 3 or 4 different packages, you might just say, you know what, I don't care about like 1 or 2 cents a piece on this. I would rather just have one package, one tracking number, so I'm just going to buy 4 from this guy for this price. So it helps to click on these and just like check out how many of these do they have. Like, is there a quantity for this? So, because yeah, like I said, sometimes it will make sense. You just want to buy multiple copies from the same person, just save yourself the headache. But alright, so let's look and see what like auctions look like on eBay. So Force of Will. And in this case, you probably should note that it's MTG, because they're obviously like sometimes these sorts of listings end up in the way if you're looking for cards. As far as eBay goes, I've never really had any problems with it as far as like getting cards sent to me. Oh, you know what? I should actually look through everything. Hold on a sec. Because this is also worth noting too, because sometimes Magic cards get listed in different categories. So we were just looking at the ones in individual Magic cards. So if you actually search from the home screen, it'll search all categories by default. So you know what? Let's do this. Maybe there was one that wasn't actually in that category. All right, now it looks like we were fine. All right, so let's see if we can find some Force. Maybe we're interested in playing Legacy. Let's check out like what the price of Force of Will looks like. All right, so first of all, also if you're buying like stuff like that, be careful. Don't buy stuff like that. These are just fake proxies that people make. And if it looks like a price like this, don't buy these, because they're generally just random Magic, like just homemade packs basically. And just because they'll like show pictures of all of these like cool, wow, these are awesome things that you can get, but it's unlikely that you're going to get the stuff that you want to get. You're just going to get random things, and there's not even any guarantee that they're going to actually put like the good cards in there. There's a lot of ways to rig it so that they can say, look, we put like Black Lotus in these packs, and oh, it just so happens that a friend of ours that we knew happened to buy the pack with the Black Lotus in it, or nobody bought it at all ever, and then nobody ends up getting it. So it's really hard to like verify whether these are legit or not. So I would just assume that they probably aren't. You can spend your money much wiser than this. So yeah, definitely like skip those kind of listings, and you'll see they'll usually be near the top because they try to price them. They'll put like expensive card names here, Force of Will, like Black Lotus, Jace the Mind Sculptor, stuff like that in here in the titles of these when you're searching for cards. And then, yeah, actually it's good that this showed up. Sometimes eBay will put like sponsored listings here, so you might see stuff like this. Just ignore it. Alright, so scroll down. One thing to pay attention to, you don't want the gold bordered one. So if you look and see like Championship Edition, that is not what you want for your deck. And yeah, you might just see like cards sometimes that just have that, and it'll be a picture of a card, but you might have to look in the description to make sure it doesn't say that. So usually that's only a problem with like though they come from pre-constructed decks that they're gold bordered, they're not legal to play with. So, all right, so let's see. Oh, well, it looks like we have a force here for about $71. That's not too bad. It's heavily played, but he has two of them too, so that's nice. You can always go and look to see if they have like a decent amount of feedback here, and it's positive. So like this looks like, yeah, it's a store that like sells these. And so I would be heavily played means that you should be able to play it in a sleeve without a problem. So you could definitely buy like two Force of Wills here, 71 apiece. I mean, that's not bad. And one of the reasons you might want to buy it on eBay, and again, ways you can save yourself money, every now and then eBay will send out messages to people that they get like 10% eBay bucks. And eBay bucks are great because it's basically just like credit for eBay that you can just spend on whatever you want every like 3 months. So you buy these like while there's a 10% deal on it. You know what? You're going to spend $71 a piece in them, but it also means that you're going to get like $7.10 in credit later on to subsidize future purchases of Magic cards or whatever else you might want. Like sometimes you buy other stuff on eBay. I don't know. I don't normally, but I mean, I guess I sometimes do, but like the vast majority of the stuff I buy on eBay is like trading cards at this point. Just it's this is what I use this site for. So, but no, if you think about it like that, well, if you time your purchase right, well, that you can effectively be taking $7 off the cost of this if you get it on like the right day when they're giving you 10% eBay bucks. So then like now you can say, oh well, this effectively is only going to cost me $63 because then when I go to spend that $7, I'll do it again on a day when it's like 8-10% eBay bucks. So I'm using the cost of I'm using like those $7 to subsidize the next thing. So in the end, you're spending like the 10% less money on this stuff. So it ends up being so it's like a 10% off deal. So at that point, it makes sense. You might, if you can get a set of Force of Wills for like $63 a piece, that helps. That's a lot better than having to spend, like $90 on a single force, which, some people think like, oh, well, that's what Eternal Masters cost. That's what I need to get into Legacy. Like, absolutely not. And it's worth mentioning here, if you're buying cards on a budget, don't be afraid to buy played cards. Played cards, as long as you know the difference between like, damaged and like lightly or moderately or heavily played, like you can get cards that you'll be happy with and you can play them in your deck and they'll be fine. Heavily played, especially for stuff like Force, you know what? It may not look pretty, but it'll work. Like my first set of Force of Wills were heavily played and they were fine. So I won many tournaments with them, and I ended up I think I eventually got them signed by Therese Nielsen, and then I ended up selling them later on when I finally got my set of foils for my deck. So yeah, it's not a sin to like play with played cards. You can save yourself money if you're starting out on it, and you don't need minty fresh cards in order to win a tournament. So don't let this deter you. Know the difference between heavily played and damaged though. If a card has like a significant bend in it, or it has like a hole or something like that, that's damaged. You don't want damaged cards because damaged cards are marked cards. You can't play a damaged card in the sleeve in a tournament. You can play, a moderately or heavily played card in a sleeve in a tournament and be fine. So just be sure that you know what it is that you're getting. So like I said, this would be a really good deal on forces if you needed to get them. And again, wait. It's usually like, every like couple weeks eBay sends out the email to people randomly. It just says, I think you have to opt into their promotional stuff, which means they'll randomly send you spam mail like, yeah, go buy this thing. But it's worth it because it means like when I need to go spend like, $300 buying like Force of Wills, well, I'm effectively going to save $30 on it now. So it was totally worth it in the end to do so. But also, since we saw that's the price for like single forces, there's going to be more here. Like sometimes you can find signed ones on here. There's also, yeah, like, you might also look for, like, maybe you need, what was I going to say? Maybe you want, like, Eternal Masters ones. Well, they're going to be sorted by price, and Eternal Masters generally are more expensive, so, yeah. I hate how they add these sponsored ones in there. It's a pain in the ass, but, yeah. Usually Eternal Masters are around, like, $90 to $100 in that range. They might have gone up a little bit. Here we go. Here's one that's like $95. So the Eternal Masters will start going in here. And then as we go deeper through here, you'll start to see then, like, here is the Invocation Force, and then the Judge Force, and then finally, like, the most expensive one is the Foil Eternal Masters. So, alright, but you know what? The reason we did this all is because we also want to see what do auctions look like for this. So, for auctions, if you're going to look for stuff, so like you might want to buy an entire set of forcibles, so maybe you want 4 of them. For that, I generally look by time ending soonest. So this has 13 hours left. You can sometimes, depending upon when auctions end, if you see like there's an auction that's ending soon, and if you can keep an eye on the price, you might be able to snipe it out at the last minute, and get it for a small discount on what it normally would go for. Like here, you see, like, here's a set of 4 of them. This has like a day and 16 hours left. So, yeah, let's think about it. Alright, so if we are effectively going to... I'm just doing some math here quick. We're going to buy a set of them, and we said they're going to be about, let's say about $70 a piece, and we want 4 of them. Should be able to try to get them for about $280. So you might say, okay, well, maybe I want to save myself some money. So here's a set of 4 of them. I can get them from one person. I might put in a bid here for, like, don't put in a bid until, like, when the auction's going to end. There's absolutely no reason to bid on this early. Wait until it has, like, a couple minutes left. If you can wait till, like, when the auction's going to end, that's the best time to bid on it. Because then you can get an idea of, okay, is it even worth it? Because what if this is like $279? Well, then, like, that's the cost of how much forces were in the first place. So don't bother bidding on this because it's already going to be effectively $70 a piece. But if it's like $229 and it's going to end in 5 minutes, then you know what? Spend the next 5 minutes and watch this. Put in your max bid. Put in, like, okay, I will bid up to like $280, and then see if you win it. Like, I've definitely bought some stuff by doing that method before, but it also requires you to be available to do this basically when the auction's going to end. So it looks like this is going to end Saturday at 3 in the afternoon, so for me. So this would be, if I needed forces, like, this is something I'd probably keep an eye on it and see, like, on Saturday, how much does this, like, look like it's going to go for. And remember that there are some other people that will do something similar to you, so that's why you really want to wait until, like, the last possible second. Like, if you can, wait till about 10 seconds before the auction is going to end in order to put in your bid. Because a lot of people won't even bother changing their max bid if they think that they're going to win. And if you can get it in within, like, the last 10-20 seconds, sometimes, you can say, like, alright, I'll put in, like, 270 or something, and they only had their max bid set to, like, 260, so guess what? You just saved yourself, like, $20 on buying a set of Force of Wills. Well, yeah, $20 off of what you would already be saving money on, like, because it would have only been, like, $70 anyway. And, again, it's worth mentioning, auctions do count towards eBay bucks, so, you buy these for like $260, well, you get your 10% on that back, so, yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah, you get your, like, what, $26? So yeah, you're really buying it for like that minus 26. So maybe that even lets you bid a little bit more. Like maybe you can bid like 285 or something. If you know you're gonna get like $28 back, maybe 290 is a price that makes sense because then effectively you're spending 270 on it. The 10% eBay bucks deal really makes a difference. Like I said, because you can use that towards the cost of paying for stuff like this, and you just keep rolling it over so that way it's just more or less it's just saying anything that's listed on eBay just effectively has 10% off of it. It's great. So yeah, so sometimes auctions make sense to buy stuff like that. I guess one other thing we can look at here, if you're gonna buy stuff on here, sometimes it also might look, if you're gonna buy stuff that's expensive, like a set of Force of Wills, well, that's gonna be about $300 usually, maybe a little bit more than that. So like you go from like most expensive to least expensive. You can generally see whether some of this stuff is listed on here. Some people will just list like 4 Force of Wills together. So like here's a sponsored one, like Force of Will X4. So this listing is for all 4 of these, but that's way too expensive. So the fastest way to find out what the cheapest price is for a set of Force of Wills is to scroll through here. So like here's a set for, it would be $305. That's not terrible. So how much does that work out to? 305 divided by 4. So that'd be about $76 a piece if you bought them from here. And then, like I said, if you have the 10% deal, well, you're going to get $30 back off of that. So then really it's like you're only going to spend $270 on a set of forces. So something like that might make sense to like go and look for a listing. But you should always go and just check this just to see what does X4 look like. Here's a listing that's X3. This is not. I wouldn't buy these because 285 for only 3 does not make sense. Especially when you can just spend like 305 and get all 4 of them. That's way better rate. So oh wow. Okay, so this looks like this is an incredibly good deal. Let's check this one out. See, and that's why I pay. Sometimes you scroll down here and you can find yourself a good deal here. So what's the deal with these guys? 4x Force of Will, light moderate play. This person has sold a bunch of stuff in here before. Maybe not like a whole lot, but they have a positive feedback, so it's unlikely that this person I think is going to scam anyone. You can always go in here and check this out. They've sold magic cards before. They sell other stuff too, so I wouldn't be too worried about this. There's no negative feedback or anything. They have sold other stuff. So yeah, if you need 4 forces, like you can even see the condition. They don't look very bad. Like light moderate play. There's pictures, you can see what they look like. Yeah, like okay, maybe that corner's a little bit. You know what? That's not bad at all. My first set of forces were way worse than this, and I think I spent more than this on them. So yeah, you can that. You know what? That's fine. They might be a little bit played, but so be it. Can we see the backs? Yeah. Oh, these look beautiful. Man, like in the middle here, you can see like there's a little bit of wear on like the center because it's starting to crease just a bit. But you know what? That's fine. Like that's not gonna stop you from playing them in a sleeve at all. So you know what? If I'm looking to get into Legacy on a budget, like something like this makes a hell of a lot of sense to buy this. So let's see. Always, though, read the description in this stuff. Just make sure that there's nothing that says, like, oh, it's a repainted back or it's like a Chinese proxy or some shit. It probably won't be, but you know what? Read it and just make sure it doesn't say that because there are some people who will, like, list things that look appealing and then they say here it's like, these are just meant to be played casually, not for tournament play or something like that, so that they have, like, plausible deniability for selling fakes. I don't see any signs that this listing would be bad, so yeah, light to moderate play, yeah, I agree. I think it's probably closer to light, but maybe, yeah, so 1 or 2 of them are close to moderate, so you get tracking in your shipping, that's good. Especially if you're going to buy something expensive, you want tracking on it. Buy stuff with tracking, please. When tracking is not very expensive, especially for stuff like this, it's nice that you keep updated in that, so. So, alright, let's look at this. So, free shipping, $255. So, our cost for this normally is going to be $64 a piece, basically. But remember, if we're doing things the smart way, we're buying this with our 10% eBay bucks, which is basically a 10% discount. So times 0.9. So really, it's only going to cost us $230, which means our average cost per card here. How much are we going to spend on these? $57.50 a piece. That is a great price for Force of Wills. If you need forces, I defy you to find them for like $58 a piece. That is a fantastic price for these. So, yeah, absolutely. I'll probably, once I'm done recording this, I'll put a link to this listing over by the Merfolk MTG Discord. So, got to give my fishy friends first crack at this stuff, because I know a lot of them want to get into Legacy, and helping people find deals and cards is one of the ways that I feel like I can help Legacy thrive. So, but yeah, look, so we went through the process, and you know what? We found what we think is going to be the best deal in this. So if you do everything right in this, our cost could be anywhere between $58 to maybe like $64 a force, and that's pretty reasonable. Sometimes you might see a listing like this, and this is a price that's good enough that I would probably buy this even if I didn't have the 10% thing. But generally, I try to reserve, or I try to wait to buy expensive cards until eBay emails out those the discount codes for it, for the eBay bucks. So that you just have to maximize your money like that. So if you don't need something right away, but you know that you're going to want it eventually, just you can wait a couple weeks and just until that, and then go through this process and find the cheapest one. And you know what, you can get yourself a good deal like that. But sometimes you're gonna find stuff like this where it's like, I don't necessarily know. Like, if the next cheapest one that I'm going to find is going to be like $73 a piece, well then, of course I'm going to snap by this, because even just at this price, they're going to be like $64 a piece. That's great. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we've gone through, we've looked at how you can find, cards in eBay. Definitely, when you're looking to buy stuff, pay attention to how many stars the people have and what their percentages look like. If they have at least some transactions here. You don't want to buy, especially not expensive cards. Don't buy expensive cards from people who have almost no sales history. Even if it's only a couple hundred or something, this person obviously buys and sells stuff, and they have some good ratings on it. So I would not be concerned about buying from this person at all. And it pays to look for this stuff. Look at how much money we could save on this if we're looking to buy these things. And just for comparison, let's go over to Tcg Player and look up Force of Will. So what do we got here? Tcg Player is not usually on this sort of stuff. It might be a little bit more expensive. We don't want foil. There's no foils for this one. So yeah, their heavily played ones at cheapest are only going to be 65 plus shipping. So yeah, this deal is going to beat out Tcg Player even without the 10% eBay bucks, and if you have the code for that, then it just is utterly going to destroy it. Nothing's going to come close to that. So and especially because here, if you buy stuff, even if you get 3 from here, and you're going to get multiple packages, which is kind of a headache, So it pays to look through that, and Star City I'm sure is going to be absolutely horrendous in this, because Force is one of those cards that's really expensive and people need a lot. So yeah, no, where's our alliances one? We're only interested in alliances. Alliances. Okay, so you know what? This is something that's actually worth noting. We found these in Star City. They have them heavily played at $60 a piece. So I think these ones are probably in pretty decent condition. But you know, if you're willing to compromise and condition a little bit more, you can like $60 a piece for heavily played forces is not unreasonable at all. And this is another. This is what I'm saying. Like if you're willing to compromise on your play condition, heavily played is still sleep playable. So that's not bad at all. And they have 16 of them in stock. So you need a play set of forces. Like getting them from Star City is not the worst option. And you can even, if so, here's another trick, and I should have mentioned this earlier. If you're going to buy stuff from Star City and you know there's an event in your area, you can actually schedule it for at an event pickup. So you don't have to pay them to ship it to you. You can just say, you know what, I'm going to pay you for these now, bring them to the event, and I will pick them up when I go to play at like your SCG Open. So there's yeah, that's an option. So if I was going to buy like a set of these, you know, I have SCG Philadelphia coming up, the team event, so I might want to go and get a set of forces. I mean, I have them, but let's just theoretically say I wanted them. Well, if I'm going to Philly anyway and I don't need them right now, I could just totally use the, you know, at event pickup. That's totally an option. So save some money. And 60, so remember with our 10% here, I think we were at like 57.50. So $60 versus 57.50 is pretty damn close. So if we didn't find a deal like this would definitely be like a pretty close second option if we really need these. I mean, their played ones are $80, but you know that's it is what it is. But I'm surprised by this. This is actually pretty good. So it pays to check, even though, like I said, most of the time, you know, especially like we're looking, you know, here's, you know, Eternal Masters, like it's $110. Like that's insane. Eternal Masters forces, like we saw them on eBay for I think cheaper than that, like 95 a piece. If you're willing to compromise in condition, though, like, you know, if you don't care about the condition, like you can, you know, they're out of stock in these, unfortunately, but yeah, the condition, like they have a bunch of these in stock right now. So it pays to check. Like just because you know they're known as like, you know, the expensive one, they're not always. Like you can definitely find some deals like on, and sometimes eBay will be the cheapest, sometimes TCG will be, and sometimes Star City will be. All right, so we talked about, you know, going this, and there are other vendors you can check too. There's other places like Channel Fireball has one, Alpha Beta Unlimited Games does, Troll and Toad, Card Kingdom. There are other vendors you can check to like do this stuff too. I'm just saying, like, these are like the three main ones I would check: Star City, TCG, and eBay, because those are the three sets of prices that people normally will be concerned about. But no, absolutely go check out other vendors, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. Where, you know, sometimes I don't usually use many of the other vendors, but it's certainly not. It doesn't hurt you to like spend some time and just check. Like here, we'll look up Channel Fireball. Like it's not going to cost us anything but like a minute or so. Like how much are your forces? Okay, here, Force of Will. What do you got? Alliance's Force of Will. I'm not really a fan. Like, yeah, those are near mints. Slightly played, they have them at $80 a piece. So, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to buy these from Channel Fireball. I'm more likely to get these from Star City if I want them. I would rather get heavily played ones for $60 a piece. But you know what? Maybe they could have had them. I mean, especially if it's something that's more, I don't know, like more strange. And again, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But yeah, look around at all the online vendors, because you can find yourself some good deals. So like, but if you're gonna check just like 3 different places, you know, check the eBay Buy It Nows, check TCG Player, and check Star City. Those would be the 3 that I would check for first. Okay, so we covered the online vendors. We talked about the LGS. Let's also now talk about, you know, there are some other options that we have though if we want to find some cards. We can go to Facebook, and maybe a lot of people don't know about this, but there's a bunch of groups on Facebook that actually buy and trade Magic cards between players. Most of these groups are they're run by people who may own stores and other places. Like the high-end group here are the Magic buy sell, like the one that we're looking at now. This one I believe is run by Dan Bach, who is he's kind of an infamous figure in the community. He probably owns more Black Lotuses than anybody else in the world, and he deals in Power 9 like a bunch. And he's a very polarizing individual. A lot of people don't really like him, but he's got somewhat of a following too as well. So yeah, there are a bunch of groups like this that are just run by various people that exist purely to facilitate buying and selling between players of the community. So I will put links to all of these in the description of this video, so you can go check them out. You can find some pretty good deals and cards here sometimes if you are willing to take just a little bit of risk in doing so. So remember, these are private transactions, so you have to kind of negotiate with the other person as to how you want to handle it. Some people will say use PayPal, and they use the there's like a 4% buying and selling fee on it that you can say, you know what, I want to have the PayPal purchase guarantee in this, so I'm going to pay the fee for that. And if you can also, a lot of people, and I am not advising anybody to necessarily do this, be careful with your money, but risk only what you feel like risking. Some people will send stuff as PayPal friends and family in order to buy cards like that, so they don't have to pay the extra 4% fee, because you're saving yourself 4% on it, but maybe that's not worth the risk. If you're buying a $100 card, then maybe the $4 or whatever might be just worth the insurance that they're not going to scam you or anything. So just be aware that there's no hard rules as far as that's concerned. This is all negotiated between individual people. Well, I should say that there are hard rules for these groups, and you absolutely should read them. But I mean, as far as buying and selling goes, they're not stores, or these are just random players in the community who just have cards they want to buy and sell. But yeah, there's each one of these groups will have a set of rules that they use. So they're private groups, so you will have to join. You have to ask to join them, and then somebody will have to verify you to join it. But I mean, it's not. Basically, that just boils down to a matter of it might be a day or two before somebody clicks yes that you're allowed in the group. The only times that they don't allow people in is if they obviously don't read the rules like they were saying here. So always read this stuff before, and then you can join and participate in the buying and selling of stuff. And you can search through these groups too. If I want to search, yeah, I'll just for fun here. Let's see. Do we have forces in here? Some nice. All right. So what's this one? Yesterday. So always check the dates, because sometimes this might be posted from a few days or a few weeks or maybe even a few months ago. So yeah, just be aware if it's recent or not. So let's see, what does this guy have? So we look forcible. He's got one for $42. So what's here? Oh, so it looks $62. So that's not bad. That's pretty reasonable condition. That's probably lightly played for a force. And yeah, like I said, different people are going to offer different deals. Some people will say, you know what, if you like I said, spend $100 and you get free tracking and shipping on it. So yeah, that makes sense. So if you're going to buy a bunch of expensive cards, or even not expensive stuff, a lot of these posts are just this group in particular is for just literally anything. There is a bunch of different groups here, and I'll talk about each one of them and what they're for, but the one that we're looking at right now is the buy sell trade group. This is for literally any Magic stuff that you have that you might want to sell. It does not have to be for expensive cards or anything. Sometimes people just sell like standard like cards, like Castle Blockthwain, or what the hell is his name, Torban, the red guy. Sometimes you might see like Power 9 cards in here somewhere, but what is this? Yeah, this is a time twister. So like, yeah, you might see stuff like this in here. And if you're looking to buy like power cards, like Power 9, this is probably one of the best places to look for it, because a lot of the people here, they have some really cool stuff that's worth checking out. Here's just like, looks like random like modern staples. Wait, I see a storybook frame that looks like what, maybe Love Struck Beasts? Yeah, so you can find basically anything in these groups, and people will make their own deals for this. This guy's selling stuff 14% off low, the lightly played Tcg price. So right there, like, you can already see if you buy here from here versus Tcg Player, you're saving yourself like 14% on the card. And maybe that makes sense for some of the stuff you want, like. There's a lot more clicking and reading through of individual posts. Your best bet is usually if there's something specific you want, just use the search function for it, and just like read each one of these and see if it looks like it's what you want. I mean, it's not perfect, but it'll take you a little bit of time. But sometimes you can find like some of the absolute best deals in cards this way. So yeah, this one's like the generic group that you can buy like literally anything from this one. There is also this one, which is MTG Sic Deals. The hard rule that like makes this different from all the other ones is this rule. They require you, it has to be at least 10% below the Tcg Player, or the Tcg Player or eBay lowest buy it now price. So yeah, I have a list here. So if you're looking to get stuff like 10% off, like what the eBay price is going to be, this is a good place to do it. Like, and remember, when you're buying stuff from these, you always have the ability to negotiate with these people. If you think, you know what, I would buy it, like if this is like $105, you can just be like, yo, how about $100, and then I'll do it. Like maybe maybe you can get it like that. There's back and forth to this. Like you can make an offer and stuff. You don't have to necessarily say, you know what, this person has like this price listed. Like you can make an offer, and that it works sometimes. People will just, for whatever reason, like maybe their car broke down and they have to just sell stuff. Like, don't be afraid to haggle with people. You can get some extra percentages taken off of this stuff. Yeah, like MTG Sic Deals is again a group that you can sell literally anything here. This one is, I don't think this one is run by Dan. He runs a lot of them, or at least he's on the administration team for a lot of them. I don't think this is one of the ones that he does, so just keep that in mind. The people that run these groups, however, do not take any responsibility for the trading. It's all between you and the person you're buying, so you have to be responsible for yourself. So don't risk or do anything stupid, unless be aware of the positions you're putting yourself into when you're buying stuff. So and there's ways that you can like kind of mitigate your risk, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, this group is for literally anything that's like Magic related, with the exception that it has to be 10% off of whatever the cheapest eBay or TCG one is. So this is a very good one to pay attention to, because again, if you're looking for cheap cards, 10% off is not bad. You can do way worse than that. Alright, so next one, the high-end $50 or more Magic the Gathering stuff. So this group is for expensive Magic stuff. Mostly cards. I think I've seen like I think a few non-Magic card things. Like there might be like artist proofs or something that are kind of expensive that can show up in here, but mostly for just cards. But the hard rule for this group is that it's only to sell or buy things that cost $50 or more. So expect to see a lot of like foils, expeditions, like reserve list cards. This would be a good group to look for like Force of Will, because you'll probably find it in here. Like you might not find Force of Will under the Sick Deal page, but you definitely would like find Force of Wills in this group because they cost more than $50. So let's see, yeah, here, moderately played Force of Will, $60. Let's see, what does it look, where, here we go. I don't really have like a good picture of it, but yeah, there's, so I mean, $60, that's pretty competitive. Like, sometimes they might have more than one too. You can always, yeah, some, like, if you can get a playset of them, sometimes that's a good way to go. $60 is, like, we saw that, that's like what Star City wanted from theirs, and that was about as cheap as we could find it reasonably. So, or here's like, you know, 4 Japanese Force of Will Eternal Masters. So like, if you're a person that, you know, plays like all Japanese cards, like, here's a way to find them. You know, I have no idea what a reasonable cost for Japanese forces are, but I mean, you can find basically whatever you want in these groups. So yeah, expensive stuff. You see, there's a lot of like Power 9, those sorts of things. Lots of rectangles. Yeah, that's what you're gonna find here. Legacy startup here, dual lands all over the place. You know, Underground Sea. Underground Sea 380 is not terrible. That's especially depending on the condition. Like, that's a pretty good price for that stuff. It's at one. Oh yeah, here look, Underground Sea. Heavily played 280. Damn, I had no idea they were down that far. You know, at one point, like, these stupid, like, near mint Underground Seas were, like, almost as much as a fucking Mox. But, like, if you need, like, Underground Seas, like, that's definitely, like, not terrible. So, again, just look through here. You can find, maybe there's ones that are cheaper than that in here, too. I haven't looked. Like, Tropical Island at, you know, 230 is, like, that's, depending on the condition of that, that's not a terrible price. I think I got my heavily played ones for close to, like, 200, 210, something like that. So if this is, like, you know, maybe lightly played, that could be pretty reasonable for that. I mean, like I said, you can make deals with the people too, but it always, the more stuff that you click on and look, the better. So do yourself a favor and just check these groups. All right, what's the next one? Yeah, the next one I'm going to link you guys to is MTG FOIL Junkies. FOIL Junkies is exactly what it sounds like. This is all for foil cards. People, and if you want to show off your foils, that's fine. If you want to buy and sell stuff here, like, look, here's a bunch of expeditions. Great place to go to find this stuff. Mox Opals. I'm so... Cards you can't play. So sorry for your loss, except I am really not sad at all. That card needed to die. But, you know, you can post, like, you know, ISO posts, and people will, you know, PM you. They'll send you, I have these cards at this price. Like, does that work for you? You know, here, like, lots of you know, foreign foils. You can find that stuff here too. Pimp out your deck, man. That's the way to go. So yeah, foil group. In case you're one of the crazy people like me that just, like, has apparently more money than they, like, or they're just stupid and just spend all their money on dumb shiny rectangles, then yeah, here's a good place to do that. Don't foil your decks, for the love of God. That's the dumbest thing that you can spend your money on. You may as well just be burning it. Do not do what I do. Alright, this group is a little bit different. It's not quite the same as the rest of them, but I'm going to include it for the sake of completion. This is the Misprints, Oddities, and Rarities group for Magic. And you can find a lot of really interesting, cool stuff here. So, for instance, if you can see, there are playtest cards. You know, there's, like, test printings. There are misprinted cards, ink splotches, sometimes crimped cards. You have cutting errors where sometimes the card is, like, shifted to the left or the right, or maybe it's just missing part of it because it was just sticking out of a pack and got, like, cut off. Or, you know, you can also find, like, artist proofs in here, so stuff with the white back on them. They're not, artist proofs are not legal to play, but they're really cool and they're collectible, and I know because I happen to have here, you know what, I may as well show it to you guys right now. Here, there we go. So, like, this is what, like, an artist proof looks like. So here's the Twilight Sparkle card. It is signed by the artist, and the artist proofs just have a totally white back on them. They're not legal to play in anything, but they are very cool, and there's usually not very many of them, like generally like 100 or less in most cases. They are given out to the artists every time that they like do art for a new card, so it's one of the ways Wizards thanks them is they just send them like a stack of white-backed versions of the card that they just made, and then some of the artists will go and then sell them to people. Where are we at here? All right. So if that kind of stuff is interesting to you, like you can find that here. Sometimes there's also mispackaged items, you know, like a commander deck that has the wrong commander put into it for some reason. Some people collect that sort of stuff. Their original artwork, you can find stuff like that here, or even like other weird stuff like, you know, original design documents from like Fallen Empires. Like you can find stuff like that in this group, and it's insane. A lot of these things are very expensive. Like this is the Blue Hurricane. Like this card is ridiculously expensive. Like I think this is like several like this is I think this is one of the cards that's like in the thousands of dollars. Yeah, because I think it's from Summer Magic. But yeah, it's insane. What is this? There's a it looks like there's a very small crimp in this. You can kind of see like these little white dots. It's because it got caught in the packaging of the pack. We might see like another one in here. You can see here's playtest cards. What is it? Huh. Interesting. Yeah. So basically, lots of stuff that have to do with Magic's history are in here. Here, you know, here's like an oversized breeding pool. That's really cool. Breeding pool for comparison. Or, yeah, I guess that's like banana for scale. So what's the deal with these? Why, I don't know. Oh, what is, I have no idea what these are from. But yeah, there's a lot of really weird stuff like that in here that you can just find. Let's see. What else is like really cool? You know, you can find signed cards sometimes. You know, like signed cards show up here a bunch. Oh, here we go. This is what a crimp looks like when it's like really, really bad. So this is a huge like crimp Sol Ring. A lot of people post stuff here just because it looks really cool and they want to share it with the world. Oh yeah, here's an Eclipse like stamp that you can see on here. I know we're kind of off topic at the moment, but when else am I going to get the chance to like show this kind of stuff to you guys? This is the kind of stuff I live for. So yeah, this is missing part of the holofoil stamp, and there's ones that, you know, all kinds of like printing errors that end up in the cards, and a lot of people look for that stuff. So you know, here's extra ink that's like, it looks like, you know, maybe there was something that was almost printed on top of it, like whatever was printing it had like ink from a previous sheet on it. So let's see, crimped Leyline of the Void. Oh yeah, square corner. So yeah, here's another thing that like a lot of people look for is square corner cards, when for whatever reason like the cards don't get cut off and rounded right on the edge. Alpha cut Ice Sage Stone Ring. Yeah, so the corners in this card I guess got cut off like wrong. Oh yeah. So on this one, like you can see, like this one is shifted ridiculously. So what happens is, yeah, when the cards are printed on a sheet, sometimes, you know, they get shifted like in a direction. So like there's no bottom border in this, and you can just barely see like the line of the next card in the top. It's hard to see it on this one. There are some that like you can see it a lot better. There's also stuff that's like NFC, which is not factory cut, where people will buy like foil sheets and intentionally cut them up wrong to make them look like ridiculously stupid. But that also means a lot of people do that so they can have like 4 different cards showing like on a single card. here's like a printing error that you know, it happened to like multiple cards at the same time. So you can kind of get an idea of like the kind of interesting things that you can find here. There's other stuff like I've seen, you know, like people who have like T-shirts or like hats or clocks and, you know, documents and stuff like that. Oh yeah, here is a Pokemon card that like apparently has a magic back on it for whatever reason. I have no idea what the hell this is or if this is real or not, but that's insane. That's really cool. So there's also like Wyvern back stuff. It's another card game that has stuff on the back like that. Oh yeah, here you can see miscut. This is a really good example of like, so now you can see like the card was intentional. Like this thing, it's really strange. Yeah, how the card in here is like this one is pushed up. Yeah, so there's lots of really ridiculously cool things here. A lot of these things are very expensive though, so if you're trying to buy stuff on a budget, like it's going to be kind of hard to do in this group. But I figured I would just spend a few minutes and like talk about it and show some of the stuff off because not everybody's always familiar with all this stuff. Like there's certainly a bunch of things in here that I don't know about, but it's worth mentioning while we're talking about the Facebook groups that this one exists and that there is some cool stuff you can find in it. So just figured I'd include that as an extra. All right, so let's get so before I had mentioned, you know, when you go into these groups to like buy and trade things, one of the things that a lot of people do is they will talk about, you know, well, do you have any references to like, you know, stuff that or people that you've bought and sold from before? So you might want to deal with like, okay, well, are you gonna like, you know, send the money first and then I'll like, you know, give you a tracking number for these and like ship the cards? Like there might be some issue of trust there. So one of the things that people did is there's a public group here. It's called MTG References Page, and it's just here so that people can just have others who deal with them just comment and say like, yeah, I sold or bought cards with this dude and like it was a great transaction. So no worries, they're not going to scam you, you know, stuff like that. So so if you are going to make use of these groups, it's probably a good idea to like also look into having a post here and like just ask anybody that you might want to deal with after you're done to say, hey, can you like throw me a +1 in here? So that way future deals, people know that I'm legit and I'm not here to like screw people. So I'll link that as well because, like I said, that matters, especially the more expensive something is, like the more people are probably going to care about that. I mean, I've bought a bunch of stuff where like nobody really cared, like, you know, it just and everything worked out fine. I will say the transactions that I have made in these pages, I have personally never had a problem. There have been a few instances where, you know, things did not work out well for certain people, but it's what I was saying before. You got to learn how to mitigate your own risk. So it's not to victim blame or anything like that. Sometimes, you know, there's nothing you can do. Like, you don't see it coming, but do everything in your power to like not buy from somebody you don't trust, basically. That's what I would say. If you don't feel comfortable gifting somebody money to save yourself the 4% or whatever, don't do it. Just spend the extra 4% to like make sure PayPal has your back on it. So yeah, that's all I gotta really say about the Facebook groups. You can get some really good deals in here. It's just, you know, like I said, it doesn't hurt you. It takes nothing but time to look through here and see if you can find stuff that's worth your time to buy. And then the last thing that I actually want to talk about is sometimes there are cards that are just ridiculously hard to find. And recently there was a saffron, I think it was a saffron olive video on it from was it MTG Goldfish about Pure Sight Marrow and a Merfolk combo with Thassa, or what is it, Oracle of Thassa and like Paradise Mantle. So you can exile your entire deck and then play the Oracle and just win the game. Well, what I noticed is that there are almost no Pure Sight Marrow foils anywhere on any of these sites. Actually, let's go back here for a second. Yeah, let's for instance, let's just go here and look on Star City Games. Pure Sight Marrow. Do you have any foils for sale? Out of stock. No, they don't. What about like Tcg Player, Pure Sight Marrow? Let's go and look. There were a couple when I last checked, but there were not very many. So here we go. What about foils? Do we have many? There are 2, and one of them is damaged, so yeah, that is not a lot. What about eBay? What does eBay have to say about this? Actually, here, I should look for foil. No matches found, so you can, it really, really looks like somebody probably went out and did, maybe there was some kind of buyout on like Pure Sight Marrow foils or something, because there's almost none of them. So the last trick in my bag here that you can use to like, sometimes, you know, you want to buy cards and you just can't find them anywhere, just Google that shit. Like, in all seriousness, like, eBay, Star City, and TCG are not the only places that sell Magic cards in the world. So, like, here, you know, there are tons and tons and tons and tons of different Magic stores that you can go through and look at. And when there's buyouts like this, like, most of these stores are probably going to be out of stock on this stuff. So you can see, like, we're going and looking at different random ones. But there might be some where, you know, like, you can go to like the shopping tab here where we see looks like Troll and Toad might actually have one, so I looked here and yeah, it turns out there is one on Troll and Toad. So I found this one just by like going through and Googling it. So we saw there was one on Tcg Player that was not damaged, and there's like one on Troll and Toad. So you might be able to find a few copies of a card if you go through and like look for, you know, some of these places. You know, like MTG Mint card. Do they sell cards, or are they just like listing price? I think they just, yeah, I think so. Yeah, they don't have any stock in this, so here, another one. I mean, yeah, this is just something I noticed recently. I have a feeling that somebody went through specifically and bought out stuff. When you're doing this, make sure that you're not on their buy list, because sometimes when you go to Google and you open up like different stores, they'll bring you to their buy list instead of their, oops, not Pure Steel, Pure Sight. Yeah, sometimes it'll bring you to their buy list instead of their actual storefront. So yeah, it does not look like they have any of this card. Sometimes like you might see stuff like this. I'm not gonna go to this place. I mean, you can, like, it's not usually that big a deal. Like, most of these places find like, oh, here's Fusion Gaming. I think that's Nikachu's store that he goes to. Well, it's not his store. It's the LGS that like he plays at sometimes. But there, yeah. And look, we're on their buy list, so we want to go back to the store, because let's see. I have a feeling that, you know, most of these places probably don't have this card, but sometimes I keep doing it. Sometimes you can find deals and cards, especially if it's like right after a banning or unbanning announcement. You know, for instance, when Stoneforge Mystic got unbanned, yeah, they don't have any foils in stock. So yeah, when Stoneforge got unbanned, like, you might have been able to do this to, like, you know, find places that did not change the price on Stoneforge Mystic right away. So before like the price spiked on it, like, you could have maybe found it like halfway through that. You know, I think at one point, like, I found a playset of like Allosaurus Riders for like $6 or something like that. Like, that was an incredibly good deal at the time. You know, I'm kind of curious, like, how much is this up to right now? What does TCG sell this thing for? Yeah, look, let's see, those are foils. So they're, yes, they're like around like $2.50 a piece, I would say. So, you know what? It's not bad. But this is also a card that, like, maybe at some point might get banned if Neo Brand is a thing, but I mean, it was also right around, like, this card spiked for a little while. Here. This is also worth looking at, MTG Price History. I think it's what MTG Price. Yeah, this site, mtgprice.com. You can actually look at the price history for any given card, so you can kind of get an idea of where it is in relation to where it was. So let's look at Allosaurus Rider. So yeah, there was a long time, or like, it just sat here. It was like, you know, $1.23, and then right around the time that, like, you know, what is it? Neo brand became a thing here, April 2019. Like, this card, like, $7 a piece. Now it's come down a fair bit since then. You know what? We don't want to look that far away. Yeah, I mean, it's been coming down since then, but. Yeah, no, it's you can go and see a bunch of spikes and different stuff. So, is there another one I can think of that, like, yeah, you know what? Let's look at Stoneforge Mystic, and maybe you can, like, this might give you a better idea of, like, you know, whether the price of a card is going up or down. So maybe if you look up stuff here, maybe you might decide, you know what, I can wait for a little while. We want World Week 1. That's probably around, yeah. So yeah, it was cheap for a while until, like, when it was banned, and then you see every, like, now and then, you know, like, here, like, people bought a bunch of them because they thought, like, at the beginning of, you know, the year, oh yeah, it's gonna get unbanned, but then, like, it didn't get unbanned until the summer. So yeah, and look, September, like, right there, that's when it. This was literally the day that it was unbanned. It went from being like $23 a piece to being like $40 a piece, and, like, look at it now. Now here it's like, what, somewhere around like 20 to 30 in this range. Here we go. So it looks like it's at like 35, but, you know, it's been kind of going up and down a little bit. So you can, yeah, like, you can use this to kind of get an idea of, like, you know, a lot of cards also have price memory, but consider that also Stoneforge Mystic, like, might be going up in price now because of the bannings. Like, it's entirely possible some of those decks are going to get better because of it. So, you know, it might be on an upswing. Like, it's been like this expensive before. It could very easily be that expensive, or even more again, if it turns out like the metagame just is really good for it. So sometimes this information helps you to just, you know, keep in mind when you're buying stuff. Let's look at Force of Will. I think this is a card that's like, this card has just historically been, like, kind of expensive. Like, it doesn't really change very much. There's not, like, a whole lot of price history on it, I guess. It perpetually kind of stays around that, like, $70 mark, like, for alliances. Yeah, so hopefully some of this information has been helpful to you. Like I said, if you can't find stuff anywhere else, don't be afraid to just, like, literally go to Google and just look for different stores that might sell it, because, like I said, here's Troll and Toad. Like, this site randomly just happened to have one of these in stock. Right? Does it still have it? Yeah, there's still one here. So if this was something, maybe you were looking to get this card for EDH, like, well, it looks like it's not available in many places, but, you know, if you look around, you might be able to find one or two of them. Actually, there is one other thing that I should mention here. So we went through all of these options, but there actually is one more option I want to talk about, and that is Card Market. So here's the deal. If you live in Europe, congratulations. Your cards are usually, like, you can get them a lot cheaper than America for whatever reason, for some stuff. You don't get like the same kind of tournament support that we get in the US, but the prices in your cards a lot of times, especially in Card Market, are a lot cheaper than the US. For my American friends, I'm sorry, but we get shafted on card prices a lot. However, we can go on to Card Market and actually look to see sometimes if they have cards for Magic that we might want to buy. Now, this site is specifically for people who live in Europe. You cannot, if you live in the U.S., you can't register an account to like buy stuff. They won't let you ship it there. But there is an option. You can either, there are two things that you can do. One, you can set up a mailbox that has automatic forwarding on it, and I believe in the FAQ here it actually does. It links you to like 2 different sites that you can do that on. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. Mailboxd.com or mygermany.com. So, yeah, there's a mail forwarding service you can use so that you can buy stuff, have it shipped to there, and then from that PO box or from that mailbox, then you can have it shipped to the United States. Or the other option is you can make a friend. I have a person that I've been talking to and has helped me several times now to buy some cards from Card Market because they live over in Europe somewhere, which I don't want to say where because that wouldn't be very nice of me to tell people that. But no, they live over in Europe, and so I've like asked them like, hey, I want to get this card because it's either not available anywhere, like it's not available, or it is way cheaper. So at one point I wanted a set of foil Cloudstone Curios, and from any place that you could buy it in the United States, it was like $60 for a foil. So just out of interest, let's see what does foil Cloudstone Curio look like. Just a Ravnica foil one. So like, yeah, it looks like here they might be around like, geez, that's like the buy list price. You know, like if you're looking at like, you know, it looks like they might be about $70 a piece. Yeah, you can actually look the sell prices in these things. So yeah, you can see like most of them are around $70 a piece. Well, at the time that I was looking at this, Card Market had them at like $30 a piece for foils, and I was like, if I'm gonna buy, you know, 4 of these things, I would rather not spend $240 in them. I would rather spend $120 on buying these foil Cloudstone Curios. So I asked my super best friend, and you know who you are, and I appreciate it very much, thank you, to go and pick some up for me and ship them back to the United States. Well, you know what? It cost like $10 to ship it to the U.S., so it ended up costing me $130, and I think I gave him, you know, some extra on the side, just as a thank you, because you should always thank your friends for doing you a favor like that. And I ended up saving myself like $100 on buying a playset of those foils, just because I was able to do that. So Card Market is definitely a really ridiculously useful tool, and I highly recommend you do it. Like, if you really like need to like save money, especially if it's a card that's like I said, either out of stock or for some reason it's just something that's ridiculously expensive, and check Card Market because sometimes they have them really cheap over there, and if you know somebody, you know, and you can get it shipped to the US for you, you might be able to save yourself a ton of money by buying them from here. So just you know how we looked for all these like pure site marrows and there were none in the United States like that we could find? Well, look at all of these. Like, so here's all of these foils. Look at how many. Every single one of these. So some of them are in different languages. So like, yeah, these are Italian. Here's an English one. Here's an English one. Here's an English one. The prices are in euro, so remember, you know, it's going to be a little bit different. 1 USD to, let's say 1 euro to USD. So what's the conversion look like right now? Yeah, so about $1.11 per euro. So keep that in mind. So it's different, but yeah, it's just you saw how ridiculously difficult it was to find this card in the U.S. Well, guess what? This is what I ended up doing. I had my friend go and get a set of these for me from here because there wasn't available anywhere else, and I wanted a set of foils for my collection because I'm stupid like that. But yeah, it's just this was a nice option to find something that was otherwise essentially not available outside of Europe at the moment for whatever stupid reason, because some, smart guy in the US decided to probably just go out to all these places and just buy all of these foils out. But apparently they weren't able to buy out all of the ones in Europe, so here they are sitting on the card market. If you really want them that badly, you can go and find them here and you can get your stuff. So definitely this is like this is probably what I would say is usually my last resort tool. Like, unless it's something like ridiculously expensive, like if I'm going to look at like buying like a masterpiece Aether Vial or something, like I might go here and just check to see like, okay, is the price of Aether Vial significantly more or less expensive than anywhere else that I can find them? Because if it's like half the price, then it's probably worth going through the effort to do it. Yeah, so let's look at this. Aether Vial. Yeah, so what's it look like here? 118 euro, so times 1.11. Let's see, what is that in USD? It's about $131. But remember, you also still have to add like $11 for shipping. Usually, international shipping sucks. So let's also look over here in price history. Aether Vial. Here is our invention. Buy list price. So TCG's price here. Yeah, card market is usually going to be like the lowest one, but yeah, Channel Firewall, like, yeah. These aren't all great, but remember that we have other options that we can go through and look at. Where is my eBay tab? Here. It's just, for shits and giggles. Alright, oh yeah, we want to change this lowest to highest. Okay, so, I could see reasonably, like, if I wanted an Aether Vial, it would be like $135. So, I mean, it's pretty close. Like, remember, again, like, if you buy it with the 10% eBay bucks, though, you get like 10% off. So, I mean, there's still options, it looks like, where you could buy your vial like in the US without having to resort to this or to go to card market for it. But you know what? Sometimes it might make sense to go through this process and do this, because you might be able to find deals and stuff like over here that they're just way cheaper. Like I said, I saved myself like $100 buying 4 foil Cloudstone Curios just because they were like half the price here for some reason, and they were ridiculously expensive over on our side. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. And it might also be easier sometimes if you're looking for foreign language foils, like, if you want like Italian or something like that, you might be able to find them over here easier. That's definitely a possible thing. So, alright, yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to mention. So, let me get back here. So, I hope you guys have learned something about, like, going around shopping around for prices and cards. I mean, I tried to be as thorough as I could with this stuff and mention like a bunch of different options you have, so you have tons of places to look to find a good deal on cards. So if you have a budget for your Magic and you need to really stretch it out, like you have the ability to go and find the best deals in your cards, and you can really make that budget work for you. If you're like you said, if say the cost of getting into Legacy is kind of hard, and you're like, oh, I don't really have like $90 for a Forcible. Well, you don't need $90 for a Forcible. We just proved like you can get them for $60 a piece pretty easily if you know how to. If you're willing to look around, we even found them slightly cheaper than that. Like we went all the way down to like $58 for a Force, and like that's not bad at all. So just remember, the prices aren't always as bad as you think they are. If you're willing to do some footwork, and you can, haggle with some people sometimes on buying from some of these private groups, it definitely helps. I guess the only other thing I would say is sometimes you might be tempted to trade in cards toward, like, maybe you want to, like, trade in cards towards getting another deck. Remember that when you trade in your cards, you're only going to get usually 40, 50, maybe 60% at best of the card value when you trade stuff in. Like, unless it's like something that's like on a place's hot list, then very, very rarely you might get something like 70%. But assume that, like, on a trade-in that you'll get roughly 50% of whatever the value of your cards are. So if you are looking to change decks for some reason, and you're interested in saying, I'm just going to get rid of the old deck and put it towards the new one, before you trade it in, you might also want to consider maybe selling some of the cards. Because if you sell cards yourself, you can actually get some, like, maybe like 80% of the value of the cards in cash. And it's, what's better than trade credit? Cash. And you know what you get better percentages on? Cash. You can sell stuff on eBay. Like, you could take your entire deck and you could say, what was it? Yeah, there. You could sell your entire deck on there. Put up a listing. So, like, okay, you priced it out on Tcg Player. My deck costs like $1,000. Like, I can auction the deck off, or I can just put like a buy it now, like, $800, and it's yours right now. And you know what? You'll get money for it. And you'll probably get more for it. I'm sorry, almost definitely going to get more for it than you would if you, like, traded it into a store. And the same thing, you can sell entire decks in, like, any of the buy-sell trade groups, like, that we were looking at before. Remember, cash, like, if you sell your deck, like, yourself, and you're willing to do the work on it, you're going to get a hell of a much better deal on, converting that into the next deck. It's never going to be 100%. You're not going to get that because there's always going to be stuff like taxes and shipping fees and things like that involved. And you also have to, like, worry about if you're a private person selling Magic cards, and believe me, I would know this from having done it multiple times, especially with a lot of the people in the Merfolk Discord. Thank you for buying cards from me. Yeah, you can definitely get a much better, value out of it than trading stuff in, but it won't be 100%. But normally, if you can shoot for 80% pretty reliably, maybe 85, 90 if you're really, like, pushing it, but still much better than the alternative. So yeah, make sure, like, one of the big mistakes a lot of people do is, like, they'll just say, you know what, this deck is trash, I'm just going to throw it away and just get a new one. Well, if you're going to do that, don't just, like, vendor the deck like that. You got to be, like, very careful about doing stuff. Sometimes, you might just vendor a bunch of cards because you can't be bothered to sell, like, a bunch of play sets of, like, rares and commons and uncommons that are not, like, maybe they're not worth, like, a whole lot. Maybe they're only, like, a couple dollars. But if you have, like, a set of, Misty Rainforest and you want to turn them into Scalding Tarns, that's probably not something you want to vendor. You probably want to sell those yourself and then use the cash to buy the next set of cards that you want. So just remember, that's an option that you have, and it's one that you should definitely make use of. There are some eBay fees, like, if you want to go that route. Normally the fee, I think, is like 10%. So normally, yeah, you're going to lose about 10% on the fee, plus a little bit to undercut people probably, and then plus whatever the shipping is. So I say like 80 to 85% is probably about the value of the card that you'll pull out, which that's not bad for most stuff. Like, if you're willing to put in the time and effort to do it, like, you can maybe do a little bit better than that, but still, like, it's way, way better than just saying, like, here's my $100 card, Star City, give me $50 of credit for it or whatever. And, that extra $30 in cash you get, that'll put you that much closer to being able to get your next thing. So always just consider that. Other than that, like sometimes it might be just not worth your time or effort. Like I said, if it's just like 17 play sets of like a $3 card, then you know what, fuck it, I don't want to deal with that. Like I'll just maybe it's not worth the time. I'll just vendor it or something. Or if it's like $1, $2 cards or whatever, just something like maybe just like standard cards that you don't want to have to be bothered with trying to move because they're not worth a whole lot. Like yeah, that's fine. You can like sell those for credit or something. Just be aware that there are more options than that. And that's what I want to stress more than anything. There are tons and tons of options for going out and buying and selling stuff. I don't think I've even covered all of them. I've only talked about ones that like I personally have used a fair bit, but believe me, there are other ways to go about doing stuff. Like there's totally like the trade grinding. That's another thing that like a lot of people do where they just want to grind value through trading stuff. Like tons of ways that you can go to trying to acquire value to use to get more cardboard. But I'm just saying there are much better ways to or many more efficient ways to spend your money buying magic cards so you can get more magic cards. Everybody loves more magic cards, don't they? I do. I love more magic cards. I have an entire binder full of foils because of it. So and believe me, they're not cheap, so I look for every possible discount that I can get in this stuff, because if I'm going to do the stupid thing and buy a bunch of foils, at least I'm not going to overspend on them, and neither should you. If you're going to buy magic cards and you're on a budget, then you should, make that budget work for you as best you can. Like I said, you have all the options in the world. If you're just willing to put in some time and look around, you can absolutely make it work for you. I promise. You're not as sunk as you think you are. Just that Magic is an expensive game, but don't make it more expensive for you than it has to be. And I guess yeah, that would be the message I'd want to close with. But please, 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 just like look around and give yourself the best possible chance of getting the best possible deal. Don't overspend. Don't spend more than you have to on a playset of a card for your deck. Just because one place has it, for this price does not mean that's how much it should actually cost you to buy it. You can make your budget go a lot further a lot of times than you think that you can. It's a matter of being patient and being willing to look for it. And if you're willing to do those things, I promise you will be much happier and much more wealthy in the end, because you'll have much more money left over than you would have otherwise. So I hope that has helped people. I'm sorry that I didn't play a league today, but this is something that came up recently, and I wanted people to know, and I think that this is really important. So, but I hope let me know if if you have any other advice that you would want to give to people. If there's anything that I missed that you think is worth mentioning, I would absolutely love to hear it. Please put it in the comments so that everybody else can benefit from that wisdom too. Because, like I said, Magic's an expensive game, and like not everybody is able to just go out and spend ridiculous amounts of money in cards. So anything that we can do to help in order to be able to let more people play more competitively, I'm all for it. Like when I started out playing seriously, like I was myself on a very tight budget, and this is how I managed to acquire all the stuff that I have now. So yeah, just like I said, I hope that this is helpful to anybody, and like I said, let me know what you thought. If you have any more advice, yeah, absolutely. And then we will get back to playing leagues over the weekend, but I just really felt like I needed to do this because this is just really important, and it's going to save people a lot of money, I hope, and it's going to let them play more Magic than they could have ever possibly dared to hope for. So, alright, thanks everybody, and I will see you again later. See ya.